God of the moon, God of the sun, goddess of fertility, Baal, Ashtoret, and many strange-looking creatures worshipped by the early inhabitants of the Middle East. Two great economic and cultural powers ruled the area in those days, Egypt and Mesopotamia, the Iraq of today. The land of Israel today, then called Canaan, was in fact a region between the two great cultures of that time. Our story begins in Mesopotamia, in the city of Ur. One day, a man called Terach left Ur on his way to Haran. This journey would have been historically meaningless were it not for Terach's son, Abraham, the first Jew. Our journey begins 4,000 years ago. Today, everyone knows what a synagogue, a mosque, or a church is, thanks to that very Abraham. It was Abraham who caused one of the most important revolutions in man's religious conception. We shall follow him on the journey which led the human race from idol worship to monotheism, which is the faith in one imperceptible God.
ויאמר אדוני אל אברהם, לך לך מארצך וממולדתך ומבית אביך אל הארץ אשר אראך.
And God said to Abram, go forth from your country, from your kindred, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing.
These are the words which Abraham heard, and it is the voice of God speaking to him. God's command is not an easy one. Listen carefully. God says to Abraham, go forth from your country, that's where you live, from your kindred, your people, culture, language, in short, from everything that you're accustomed to, from your father's house, even from your family, to the land that I will show you, to a new and strange place. Abraham is called upon to leave not because of famine or persecution, but because of a faith in an idea and a new vision, the existence of one unifying force in the entire world, God. The journey launched by Abraham is both a physical journey to reach the land of Israel and a spiritual journey, from paganism to the belief in one God. Abraham leaves Haran to go to Canaan with his wife and his nephew Lot. First he comes to Shechem, and from there to Beit El and Beersheba in the Negev, places which exist today and even bear the same names. Abraham soon finds out that the land which he reaches is a difficult land, much harder than the idyllic dream. In this, too, he is the forerunner of many generations of new immigrants who will also discover the hard reality of life in the land of Israel and how it entails an exhausting daily struggle. Abraham finds drought and famine in the land. He is forced to take his family and go down to Egypt. In the granaries of the great superpower, there are surpluses of food. He stays there till the famine is over, then returns to Canaan and settles in Beit El. Settles in Beit El, he is 85 years old. Now, what's troubling him the most at this point is the fact that despite God's promise that his descendants will become a great people and inherit the land, he doesn't have any children. His wife Sarah is barren. Imagine how terribly distressing this must have been for Abraham. Here is the man who came up with this tremendous revolutionary idea of the belief in one God, and he has no one to pass it on to. He wants to be able to put out that sign that says Abraham and son, but he has no heir. Well, the custom in those days for one who was childless was to take a female slave and have a child with her. So Sarah, Abraham's wife, gave him her maid Hagar, who bore him a son, Ishmael. Ishmael is to become the father of the dynasty that in the course of history will bring about the development of the Islamic people. And therefore the Islamic people are often considered our cousins. We both come from the same family. When Ishmael is 13 years old, God commands Abraham to circumcise all the males of his household as a sign of the covenant between God and Abraham and the generations who will come from him. From now on, Abraham and his descendants are commanded to circumcise every male baby at the age of 8 days. To this day, this sign of the covenant between God and Abraham continues to be one of the main symbols of Jewish identity, distinguishing the Jews from other peoples. There's an ancient story I always liked about a debate between a Roman philosopher and Rabbi Akiva, a famous Jewish sage. The Roman asked, if God wanted man to be circumcised, why isn't he born that way? Rabbi Akiva went out and came back with wheat in one hand and bread in the other. What Rabbi Akiva was trying to explain to him was the basic principle of the Jewish conception of nature. God gave the world wheat, but man eats bread, which is processed wheat. Similarly, the world was created imperfect, and it is our mission as human beings to make it perfect. So what circumcision symbolizes for Abraham and for us is in fact the mission of the Jewish people, to perfect ourselves and to make the world a better place to live in. You know, I bet that if Abraham would have had a PR agent, he would have put a sign over his tent saying something like, progress is our most important product. Abraham and Sarah are now both over 90 years old. One day, 3 angels visit them. They have good news and they have bad news. First, the good news. Within a year, Sarah will have a son. And she laughs. Are you kidding? At my age? And then the bad news. Stone will be destroyed. Stone, near the Dead Sea, is today the site of a modern potash factory. But in ancient times, it was a sinful city doomed by God for destruction. Abraham doesn't take this sitting down. He challenges God. He says, if you're a just God, show your justice. If there are 50 righteous people in Sodom, will you destroy the righteous together with the sinful? And God says, 50 righteous, I won't destroy the city. He says, what about 50 minus 5? And God says, 45 righteous people in Sodom, I won't destroy the city. And Abraham manages to work him down till 10. And God agrees that if there are 10 righteous people in Sodom, he won't destroy the city. But in the whole of Sodom, they couldn't find 10 righteous individuals, and Sodom was destroyed. After the angel's visit to Abraham, Sarah actually gives birth to a boy, Yitzchak, Isaac. Abraham now is someone to whom he can pass on his spiritual vision and the land of Israel as was promised to him by God. But the birth complicates things. Sarah refuses to let Isaac grow up together with Ishmael, whom she considers a bad influence. Abraham gives in to Sarah's demand and expels Hagar and her son Ishmael. Isaac is now Abraham's only heir.
ויאמר, קח נא את בנך, את יחידך, אשר אהבת.
And he said, take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell you.
Now the incredible story, which is so hard to tell, even harder to understand. God calls upon Abraham to take that one son, upon whom Abraham has built up all his hopes and dreams, and sacrifice him. I don't know many parents who would be able to do that, but Abraham does. He goes to Mount Moriah, builds the altar, binds Isaac, raises the knife, the angel of God stops him.
And he said, do not lay your hand upon the lad, nor do anything to him. For now I know that you are a God-fearing man, seeing that you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me.
Abraham looks up and sees a ram whose horns are entangled in a thorn bush, and he sacrifices the ram in place of Isaac, his son. We should remember that during this period, people are sacrificing humans to all kinds of gods. And here, the one God, Abraham's merciful God, demands a human sacrifice as well. Confusing? Well, maybe. But we learn two great lessons here. First, that God wants complete faith, for man to be totally submissive to him. And at the same time, we learn the supreme value of human life. God doesn't want any loss of human life, neither as a sacrifice to him, and certainly not as a result of men killing each other. And we'll find the same expression later on in the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Mount Moriah was to become the site of the great temple of Jerusalem, which was eventually destroyed. Today on the Temple Mount there are Muslim mosques, and nearby the Kotel, the western wall, are only remnant of the temple. The descendants of Isaac, the Jews, and the descendants of Ishmael, the Muslims, are still here together on the same piece of land. It seems the competition between them still hasn't ended. Shortly after the binding of Isaac, Sarah, Abraham's wife, dies. Abraham pays 400 shekels, the same name for the currency we use in Israel today, for a family burial plot in the city of Hebron, and here he buries Sarah. At the age of 175, he too dies and is also buried in the cave of Machpelah in Hebron. We call Abraham Avinu, Abraham our father, and we are called the seed of Abraham, because the Jewish people are really one big family. What really amazes me when I think of Abraham is the tremendous influence which a single human being could have on the world, how he changed the entire course of thinking, and how on the foundations which he lay, even Christianity and Islam were later based. Symbols created by Abraham 3,700 years ago have been passed from generation to generation and been preserved. Even today, we find Jews reliving the two central themes of Abraham's life: commitment to one God and the return to the promised land.